We've been talking a lot about schools this week, school vouchers, what schools do with the amount of money that they get in the budget. I think for the state of Texas, I think they're number 2 in spending. I think 34% goes to healthcare, and I think about 25% of the Texas budget goes to education. What are they doing with that money? That's a good question. And our guest is going to answer that, break that down for you. Garion Frankel is an MPA candidate in PK-12 Education Administration at Texas A&M University. He's got an article out in the Daily Caller. Public schools don't need more money. They need to spend it more wisely. That's an attention grabber right there, and it does its job pretty well. So what say you? How does all this work from your point of view?
Yeah, thanks for having me. The problem with a lot of education spending in the United States is that there's very little regulation on how schools are exactly supposed to spend that money, and you see a little bit of this in the Rio Grande Valley even. A couple of years back, La Jolla ISD decided to use some of their general fund, which comes directly from the state as opposed to local property taxes, to build a water park. So
we don't talk about that.
Instead of directing that capital towards financing their students' education, they chose to build a water park. And there are a plethora of examples around the country of public schools using money for something other than educating kids.
I mean, I have no way of justifying that, but no, you're absolutely right. We don't know. You would think, how many strings are attached to the money that schools get?
Bands.
Not as many as you would think. So schools derive funding from 3 primary sources, at least in the state of Texas. Around 40% comes directly from the state government, and this is the broad general fund that just goes into the district's budget, and they can use it more or less for whatever they want. The second part is local property taxes. That's what you're paying on your home or your property, etc. And a good portion of that goes towards your local school district as well, and that also goes into the general fund without too many strings attached. Then the third source, and by far the smallest, is the federal government. And those are generally grants for very specific programs. Those are your free and reduced lunches. Those are assistance for disability services. And that money does come with numerous strings attached because it's the federal government. If they're giving you the money, they can say whatever they want. But the vast majority of money that goes to public school budgets can be spent for whatever the public school deems fit.
It's fascinating because I think we had a conversation a few days ago that was one of the cases against private schools and school vouchers was that, well, we're going to give them all this money. It's from the state, taxpayer dollars, and they don't get any. They don't have any strings attached to that. They can basically do whatever they want with the money. There's no oversight over what they can and can't do with that sort of thing. So, it's interesting to see the similarities that you're presenting here in that particular scenario.
Yeah, public schools do have some accountability metrics, some reporting metrics that they are required to provide the state. So in that sense, there is a difference between your public and your charter schools and then your private schools. But those restrictions aren't related to the money in and of itself. It's related to the fact that they are schools operated by the government while private schools are not. But education savings accounts, which are being proposed in Texas right now, are meant to replace the portion of a school's budget that comes from educating a particular student. So the money directly from the state government, anything from the federal government as well as local property taxes are completely unchanged. So the school isn't receiving that bit of money only because they are no longer educating that student. If the student continues to attend that public school, the public school will receive the money just as they always have. And second, education savings accounts will have some accountability requirements in the sense that parents will be expected to report their purchases to the state to ensure that no kind of fraud is being committed. It's just some basic security measures that have been very successful in states like Arizona that have already implemented education savings accounts.
Joining us on 710 KURV, Garion Frankel is an MPA candidate in PK-12 Education Administration at Texas A&M. He's our guest on your 956 Drive Home. And he's got an article in the Daily Caller titled, "Public Schools Don't Need More Money, They Need to Spend It More Wisely." Davis Rankin, your question.
It seems to me a counterpoint to yours would be that theoretically the public is agreeing with the way their local school board spends the money because they reelect them. If they were really, if the unhappiness with their spending was sufficient, if it was widespread enough, then they'd turn people out. And that would explain why they spend the money as they do, because the public seems to either endorse it or it doesn't bother them enough to vote against them. What do you think?
Well, it's a fair response, but I'm not sure if you scale that kind of argument and take it to its logical end that it really holds up. If you look at the federal government, for example, there are a whole plethora of issues, regardless of what your political ideology is, that you don't really approve of the federal government spending on. Some people think too much money is spent on entitlements or the military or particular social programs or those random spending bits and pieces that Rand Paul brings up every Festivus. But yet, there's a 90% reelection rate among incumbents in Congress. So by that logic, we can never be upset with anything ever because, well, we just keep reelecting people. So I'm not sure how far we can really take that kind of argument.
Well, you could.
You mentioned in the article that schools on average spend about, I'm going to round the number up, $17,000 per student. That's a lot of money per student.
It is.
Yeah.
Where does it all go? How do you make that number a number that's used efficiently and effectively for each student in each individualized case?
Part of the problem is that, and this is an issue that a couple districts in Texas have run into, is first of all, a lot of school districts are in a whole lot of debt. If you look at Plano ISD in North Texas, for instance, they spend more every year than the gross domestic product of some small countries to start paying off this debt. And because of that, it ends up being a sinkhole for the poor teachers in the classroom who just want a little bit of extra cash so they can decorate their classroom or purchase a bit of extra materials for their kids. It causes a lot of harm. The other problem is that districts are required to contribute to teachers' pensions. And that seems fine on the surface, but the problem is that these pension funds have become so bloated that it's now preventing cash from actually getting to the classroom. So in the end, it's operating more like a general state employee program than an institution designed to educate our kids.
Now, when you talk about teacher retirement, I was just talking to a former teacher the other day, and they haven't had a cost of living increase in their monthly retirement pay in 18 years. And every teacher I've ever known talks about teacher health care, education health care in Texas, just says it's miserable. We have two systems in Texas, as you know. There's one for teachers, and I don't know who else, and there's one for everybody else. So I don't know why you say that they're bloated.
Well, that just goes to show how poorly these pension funds have been managed. It's not that teachers are necessarily receiving the benefits from cost of living adjustments, as you said. It's just that the way that these programs are written into law makes them really bloated and difficult to manage and inefficient. So the result is that, one, they're spending a lot of money, and two, the money isn't even being used well.
So I'm going to ask you the question that we asked somebody a couple of days ago. Is there a magic number that can fix the problems that we've got in the schools right now, money-wise? Can we throw enough money at the problem, even if the money isn't being spent as efficiently as it is? The schools are always claiming that they need more money. They need more money. Is there a magic number to fix it?
You know, that's an argument that a lot of superintendents around the country have made, and I don't think there is a magic number. And even if there was a magic number, it would vary a lot by the district, the county, the state. And so just these endless attempts to just increase school funding to some infinite number is unsustainable, because at some point you're going to be spending too much on a good thing.
Hey, Garion, thanks a lot
you
for...
just can't
go
operate
ahead.
public policy that way.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for spending some time with us today. Check out the article by Garion Frankel, our guest today. It's featured on the Daily Caller. Public schools don't need more money. They need to spend it more wisely. Our guest was Garion Frankel. He is a MPA candidate in PK-12 Education Administration at Texas A&M. Our guest on News Talk 710 KURV.